Seifter.
And I'm Linda Zayas Palmer.
And this is Arcane Mark. Hello everyone,
Hi.
and welcome to Arcane Mark. Today we're going to be talking about how to avoid disaster when you're GMing for extremely clashing groups. And before we get into avoiding that particular disaster, I want to mention something that's in the description as well, which is before you got to this episode of Arcane Mark, the first thing you might have wanted to consider doing if you had an extremely clashing group. This is groups with players who they just can't see eye to eye. Their interests are on completely diametrically opposed, or maybe more than diametrically if you have more players and they're all clashing parts of the game. And the first thing you might have wanted to do is actually split the group up into subgroups that have somewhat overlapping interests and then run more than one game. But we're going to assume that that was not what you did. Possibly for one of the main reasons that you wind up with groups that are horrifically clashing in the amount of the themes and the part of the game that they like is because you're all really close friends outside of the game. And you want to play this game together with each other, come hell or high water, or something that's even more different than hell and high water.
And you might think, okay, well, you could still try to split things up, but let's say that you're all busy and there's only one time you found that you guys can actually get together, so it's not practical to have more than one game for you guys.
Plus, you don't want to ostracize if you have a group of friends, let's say you have 6 players, and it's not like all 6 of them are completely opposed to each other, but they all have very distinct interests, and you could have split it into a group of 4 and a group of 2, but then those 2 people are not going to be seeing those 4 people. Even if you had 2 times during the week when you could do it, maybe, or you decide we'll do it every other week for each game. Now you, the GM, who I guess is running both of them in this scenario, gets to see everybody eventually. But the 4 that are apart from the 2 may drift apart, and other people only get to do things once every 2 weeks. So it just might not work out for your group. And that's just a potential scenario. You know why, since you're watching this video, that you want to play with this group that just completely clashes in their interests. And if you saw the thumbnail, there's one big example where you have Grim Gore the barbarian who just wants to murder everything, including friendly NPCs, wants blood and guts and graphically violent description. And then you have Princess Tea Time, who is the just wants to talk and hang out and make friends and just befriend NPCs and just have a fun, chill time in the game. And those are extremes. You obviously can have people who are completely happy going into a combat, but still are kind of horrified by blood and gore and murdering friendly NPCs.
Absolutely. And you can have players who are okay, it's fine if we talk to them for a little bit, but if we spend more than a couple minutes in a social encounter, I'm getting bored.
That's right. So, when you are dealing with these
groups... Rico says, what if your group is a bunch of nation-state leaders who are at war and have completely different interests, and the only way to find peace is to get them to play together?
There you go. I mean, this could be a situation for that, right? So, when you have this group, and it has some number of players who just literally, their interests have no overlap, what can you do? Well, you can't find an overlap because we've said that they do not have an overlap. Now, maybe your players are not quite as out there as some of these examples.
Not 100%
and there's a minor overlap, but you're not going to want to run an entire campaign that is based on this razor thin overlap because it also might get repetitive. So the first thing to do is talk to the players. You talk to the players about look, we're doing the all friends scenario. We're all friends. We want to hang out with each other, but we've known each other for a while, and or maybe you did a survey and you figured this out. It'd be you know what? Alice just wants to kill everything and wants the bloodiest, most graphic descriptions of all, and Bob just kind of wants to be friends with people and really would want like a G-rated rating on this thing, whereas Alice wants like NC-17 for blood and
well,
gore.
first of all, like, you obviously can't do those two simultaneously.
That's right. But if you at least talk it out with people and you just explain, we can't. We can't completely please Alice or Bob here, but we know that we want to hang out together. So let's just all keep in mind that we're going to work together and help each other to achieve that. Now, you can do this with the whole group. You can do this with just like one or two people who you think are more inclined to want to help you out. You could even single out to ask for people to help you out the people who clash the most with everyone else. Like if you have 6 people and 4 of them just don't clash and 2 people clash, you can actually ask the people who are clashing to be like, I want your help keeping the group together. I know you have very distinct interests, and so anything that you can think of that will bring us together, like, you're helping me out. And people like to help because when you ask them to, it makes them feel like empowered to do so, and it makes them feel like they're important and they're doing a good thing. So,
and you're taking their perspective into account.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So in this case, because Bob is uncomfortable with the graphic descriptions, you're not really going to be including those graphic descriptions in your game. But also because Alice is bored if an entire session goes by or a session or two goes by and there's no opportunity for fighting, you're probably not going to have combat-free sessions.
And honestly, Alice is probably going to be bored way sooner than that. Like, if there's even a chance a session or two goes without fighting, no, there are people who get bored if an hour goes without fighting in a 4-hour session. So you're going to want to think about that too. It's possible that the tabletop RPG that you were running is not ideal to handle this situation. For instance, if Alice does get bored if an hour goes by without combat, the problem is you may be running a tabletop RPG where combats take a really long time. And so where giving Alice a combat every hour or so means that
the vast majority of the game is combat.
The vast majority of the game is going to be combat, even if you then allow for an hour that isn't combat. Because if the combats are taking more than an hour, well, that you run into an issue there. So make sure that when you're creating ideas for compromises, you take into account the actual realities of the logistics of the game, which is sort of a invisible, like, phantom additional person who's part of these compromises. Except for since it has no feelings, and this is true, Pathfinder, D&D, whatever game you're playing does not have feelings. So you do not have to take them into account. You could switch to another game. You can, if everyone's just like, no, this is our game. We played it when we were in high school together. We need to still be playing it now. You can mod it, make house rules to adjust. Anything that you want to do, you can. But let's assume, you've talked it out. You've gotten however much compromise you can, but just due to the fact of the matter, or even that you have 3 or 4 clashing factions within your group, that's not going to be enough for now. What else can you do? Well, at this point, you're going to want to actually put on a little bit of a game design hat as a GM. GMs often do a little bit of game design just whenever you're running things. And
coming up with new options, whether maybe you're tweaking the rules for how something works because it doesn't quite go for your group. Maybe you're creating new magic items. Maybe you wanted to create a new fighting style for an NPC that you presented. So
an important thing to consider in any tabletop RPG as a game designer is what are you actually incentivizing? Because it can be all well and good if you write a tabletop RPG and you're like, this is supposed to be about like heavy role play, and you say a variety of things, but then like actually in the rules it's incentivizing like something completely different. It's like, this is a game about clever resource management of your hit points and healing, except for that actually just buying a wand with 5,000 charges of a low level healing spell completely obliterates that. That is what players are going to actually do.
Or like,
now,
this is a game about careful tactics or whatever, and then you introduce, and then like, you know, in some later Splat book, you introduce rocket launchers, and it's like, well, rocket launchers just win, so like, all that stuff doesn't matter.
So these are all just examples. They're not actually talking about your issue that you have right now. But because this is a known example to game designers of whatever your game actually incentivizes is what players are going to do, and it's not great to chide them and be like, oh no, you should be role-playing more, you should be doing this. Just change the game so it incentivizes the thing that you want. Now, when you're running into this issue with clashing groups, how can you make it better? The answer is, if you can create rewards in the game that actually incentivize the players who don't like the thing to do the thing to get the reward for the part of the game that they do like. So, for instance, if there were, I don't know, right? There were like these horrible demons from the blood-soaked plains of the blood god who like stole the teacups of peace and they're which are artifacts the gods of peace used to use to make the greatest tea party of all time, then it's possible that you wind up in a situation where defeating these blood demons by going into their blood realms will allow you to gain a teacup of peace, which will help the person who wants to have the tea party. Meanwhile, maybe the ancient swords and weapons that were used by the party of heroes who defeated the demon lord 1,000 years ago were then passed down to the descendants of those heroes who became nobility or royalty of different countries because they were so famous. And now they're possessed by jealous noble houses who just don't want to let anyone use them. And so only by having tea parties and negotiating are we going to be able to gain access to those weapons, which actually like will allow us to do blood gore attacks against demons. That's what they were made for originally, even though they're being used ornamentally now. And so by designing a campaign where doing the thing that player A likes will actually gain a reward for player B, you help motivate player B a little bit more into going into the types of game and gameplay that they don't like as much. Now, there is a limit to this, obviously, first of all, just for like, it stops making sense when the rewards are always locked behind the other thing. And also there's a limit, like, no matter how many times you tell the person who loves the tea parties that they're getting these magical teacups, if you just stay in the realm of the blood gods for like 100 sessions, and now and you've just been fighting, and he's like, yes, I have 100 teacups, great. I don't care anymore. There's been too much blood and gore. So it's not a panacea, but it can help people to get more invested in the other part of the game.
But like as Mark was saying before about the pacing of things and how long it takes to do certain things, you're going to want to be switching up the pacing frequently and going back between different options. And I think another thing that happens too, because you know we've had players who are like, I like combat, everything other than combat is bored. And you know what, like, if that player who is just going to be completely bored whenever a social session comes up is a little inclined to be on his phone during the social session and not have the character contribute as much, like, that's okay.
Yes, that is actually the next tip, which is some people consider it's a loss, or even just, like, get mad if somebody is kind of zoned out or doing something else at any point during the session. But you, my friend, who are running for this extremely clashing group are in an unusual situation. You do not have the luxury of everybody always paying the most attention being something that you can enforce. So just like Linda said, it's okay to let the person be a little zoned out during the parts that they don't like. It's not like they were going to pay that much attention to it anyway and be the person who like solved the issue and like it's not like Alice is going to, like, do the key thing in the tea party. Now, there's a situation that can be made where you actually do have a tea party occasionally, where Alice does have the key thing in there, because you not only can you put rewards at the end of the part that the player
but
doesn't
maybe
like.
assassins attack the Tea Party.
You could bring something in that's the other player's interest in the middle, or you can bring in a component of it that just really calls to the player's character, even though the player doesn't necessarily like it. Where it's just like, yes, it turns out that Alice's barbarian's like sworn sister in the barbarian group has now become the warlord who is in charge of this entire other group of barbarians, and was invited to this party, and is just basically spitting whenever anybody tries to sweet talk her, because she just likes blood and gore too, and that's all she wants to talk about. So there are ways to possibly pull someone in the middle in addition to the end, but that's not going to happen every time, and it's okay if Alice is a little bit zoned out for the part she doesn't like. If she's having fun and being with everyone and coming back in for the parts that she does.
Because it may be, for example, even that Alice enjoys watching the other people have a good time. This is just not what she really wants to contribute to. So, like, if sometimes she's thinking, like, okay, you've gotten into a lengthy discussion of the merits of different tea steeping times with these folks, like, and clearly you're having a good time, but, like, I'm gonna check something on my phone.
That's correct.
But you can also pay attention to, like, how long has Alice been on her phone? Okay, this seems like we should probably try to move on to something that's more up to her speed. But you don't want to, like, be worried about trying to avoid that all the time. Because you practically won't.
You won't, because you who are watching this are in a situation where you have just a very disparate group. And so you need to be willing to accept a variety of compromises, right? And we talked about the compromises with the players at the beginning, but this is a compromise with yourself if you're someone who always feels bad if someone's on the phone, because you're like, that means I wasn't engaging everyone. That means I'm failing this person, or whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever you feel about that, try to stop feeling about that. You might not be able to. We have our anxieties. We can't always quiet them. But at least, even if you can't stop yourself from feeling that way, you have to move past it and accept that compromise with yourself.
Also, another thing to do is pay attention to when one of the players can't come for, like, whatever life reason. Like, if Alice can't come to Alice can't come to the session, that's the perfect time for the Tea Party extravaganza extraordinaire, let's talk to everybody. If Bob can't come to the session, it's a time for, like, super murder blood campaign.
Blood 9,000. For the blood god.
So, like, by doing that, then you can have sessions that are really tailored to, like, what I'm assuming in this case that we have Alice, Bob, and, like, everyone in the middle is okay with, like,
this is, by the way, our best case scenario.
Yes.
Which is you have, like, 6 people and 4 of them are just like, whatever, they're both great. But in fact, you can easily have a situation where you have, let's say in your group of 6, 4 different and mutually exclusive perspectives of what people want to be doing, where we add into Alice and Bob that you also have, like, Claire, who just wants to collect every item, different types of item, by going to shopping, and is really, really into building spreadsheets. And Dave, who just kind of steals from NPCs, the party, and just commits a variety of crimes. And basically wants to be doing some kind of a heist at all times.
Yeah.
And even then, Claire and Dave maybe could get together where Dave is like, hey, if we rob this thing, we can get a new item that you don't have.
Yeah.
So it could have made it, like, even more distinct from that, where just, like, everybody is, why are we not, like, all playing different RPGs?
Yes.
But the point is,
maybe we keep the heist one, and then, like, because the heist one feels like, okay, let's do, like, this complicated plan. Let's smash everything. Let's be friends.
And the heist one is also stealing from
the party,
the party or the NPCs and just committing all sorts of crimes. That one is definitely something that both Alice and Bob would not be able to tolerate.
Whereas Claire could get along with this whole group.
Claire could probably get along with people as long as she's getting her money, but I only thought of her just because of a player that was in one of my games a long time ago who one time spent 2 hours talking to the GM about types of wine, and everybody else was not happy. was not happy.
Yes.
But the point is,
maybe Claire's like the campaign historian who's like trying to find out like deep details of the lore of everything.
I mean, that's possible too. It's just like wants to go into depth about all of the lore, but might be able to ally with Bob in some cases about if the lore is helpful for tea parties.
Yeah.
Or Dave if the lore tells someone who should be heisted or gives information on it. But Alice definitely wouldn't have any patience for that. Now, as you can see, you can wind up with groups that are way worse than just the two things that examples we put in the thumbnail.
But it's still easier if you have like one, if you have like, I'm assuming you probably in this case are having a situation where you have two players who are very opposed in their preferences and then other ones who have preferences in different directions that like are still easier to group together with one or the other than the other two.
Most groups who want to play these games actually have players who like to a certain extent all of the different components, or at least many of them, and you don't have people who are quite this extreme, which helps.
You also have the opportunity of for the wine example or other things similarly. I know I brought this up on this channel before, but you also have the opportunity of doing if you have the time and the player has the time, doing some like one-on-one sessions with the player to explore the thing that they really like. If it's like, so for me, a Kingmaker player who was always interested in going around and spending time solving the tiny problems of various people in the kingdom that you would never expect a 15th level character to be going around and doing.
So this is a form of splitting the group, which means based on whatever reason that you came into this video and were like, yes, I cannot split this group, you may not be able to, but it is an excellent solution that does not force you to actually tear the group asunder into two groups.
Well, because the thing is with this, it could even be like, but I'm still mentioning because it doesn't have to be like a full organized session. It could just be like, let's have a chat about your character, or like whether it's in a video call or even like a text chat or whatever. Like it doesn't have to be like the whole formal thing, and it can be more on the side.
Yes, or it could be while everyone else gets lunch. Like, we're going to talk about wines for this entire time. So, as you can see, most of these solutions, some of the solutions are game design solutions. Some of them are sort of require you to do some GMing style, but a lot of them are communication-based solutions. If you mix these together, you'll be able to deal with your extremely clashing groups in a way that hopefully can be good enough for everyone, because as you can see with all the compromises we put in there, it's not going to be perfect for anyone who's on the clashing side.
And I would say that like if you are in a part of the game that is, let's say that you went into the Demon Rift of Demonosity and you realized for this like major plot arc, we're going to be in the Demon Rift for 4 sessions. Maybe you do 2 of those sessions and then you have a board game night in the middle before you continue with the rest of the demon arc of Demonosity.
Or you play another campaign, or you even like break the session up and be like, well, we normally do like 4 to 5 hour sessions, so let's do 2 hours of the Demon Rift, a 1 hour break where we play like a quick, really light, fast board game and eat a meal or something, and then 2 hours in the Demon Rift again, or something that can help Bob get a palate cleanser from being in the Demon Rift constantly. So all of these things can help you to keep your group together, even though it's a group that, like, by its nature would normally not stay together, but is staying together because of ties of friendship and because of the work you're all putting into it. Just remember that of all the things that we said here today, the most important is the one where you go to the players and make sure everyone acknowledges that you're staying together as a group despite having very different opinions and very different interests, and where you get everyone perhaps, but at least probably the people who clash the most, in as co-conspirators who are aides, assistants, and are helping you to bring the group together, because that in itself is a secondary task that can bring interest in the sections that otherwise would not have done so for those players. If you do that, I think you'll be able to keep your group together from this, only to later be destroyed by scheduling conflicts, which are the most common way the groups fall apart. Or maybe they'll just still be together after decades. That does sometimes happen. All right. So everyone, please like and subscribe if you enjoy this kind of content. And you could even join if you want to support us. We will now be voting for the next episode that is on a Saturday, though it is not going to be next Saturday since we are traveling next Saturday.
And I think the Saturday after that is the 27th.
27th we can probably do. We'll let everybody know.
We'll let folks know. I think it depends on what time other relatives are coming, because that could also be the day that my aunt and uncle come visit.
If they come on the 27th, then we might not be able to. That's why it's only a probably.
Yes.
So we're voting now. We'll vote 1 and we'll build a hazard together. Vote 2 and we'll have an AMA for Q&A on saving your game. Vote 3 and we will do a GM tools on verisimilitude in games. For 4 we will play a game in here, and for 5 other.
There's a Matt guy said this is all assuming the GM doesn't clash with any of the ways the players want to play as well.
That is true, or it's assuming that as the GM who's watching this episode, that you're willing to sort of, like, just deal with the fact that you clash with that, given that you really, really want to keep the player enough that you're not saying, sorry, I can't play with you because the bloody combat thing is just something that I can't handle.
Yeah.
So, we're just assuming that that's not the case in this case. All right, so we have a vote for 1 and a vote for 3, and it is a tie. So let's roll off 1d6. All right, it looks like the winner is Tyranny.
GM tools, the true meaning of verisimilitude in games.
All right, so we'll be doing that possibly 2 weeks from now, but we'll let you know if it's actually going to be like the 3rd instead. All right, take care, everyone. We will see you on Tuesday to talk about a somewhat similar topic to this, but from the perspective of game design when you have very, very disparate components within your own game, a kitchen sink game versus splitting off into genre-specific games. Then after that, we will see you later. If you can't come then, have a happy holidays and take care.
Bye.